Welcome to The Week Ahead, a podcast by SBM Intelligence. I'm your host, Veronica Pana Igube. Every Saturday, we explore stories that are shaping the African continent. Mali, Burkina Faso, and Niger have officially left ECOWAS on January 29, 2025. However, ECOWAS will maintain diplomatic ties, recognize their passports, and allow trade under existing agreements while keeping communication channels open. How might this exit affect regional stability and cooperation in West Africa? Nigeria's oil regulator would deny export permits to producers who do not meet local supply quotas, including Dangote Refinery. Dangote has reduced oil prices from 950 naira to 890 naira per litre due to favorable global energy conditions, which is expected to lower the cost of goods and services. Will this petroleum price reduction significantly impact Nigeria's economy in the long run? Shell reported an oil spill in Ogale near Port Harcourt due to an overflow during operations. The spill has been contained and an investigation will determine its cause and impact. What steps can be taken to prevent future oil spills in the Niger Delta? Joining us today for further insight is Sheyi Owojulube, policy analyst at SBM Intelligence. Welcome, Sheyi.
It's always a pleasure to be on the show.
Yeah, thank you so much. So let's just start. How do you think the departure of Mali, Burkina Faso, and Niger from ECOWAS will affect economic integration and security cooperation within the region?
Well, ECOWAS set out, when it was founded, set out to be should we say, the EU of West Africa, and it looks forward to becoming a powerful. But over the years, we've seen that the influence of ECOWAS has been whittled down, and it has not been able to assert authority or influence in the region, especially with the the illegal, no, let me say illegal now, but how some administrations in West Africa have extended their time in office with ECOWAS looking the other way. So that has whittled down ECOWAS's influence. And the fact that these three countries that are landlocked, Mali, Burkina Faso, and Niger, the fact that they are landlocked and they believe that they can get away with not being a part of ECOWAS, that they can thrive without being a part of ECOWAS. And somehow we've also seen it with ECOWAS's decision to retain uh, some of the benefits, like free travel and trading. It goes to show that ECOWAS is no longer what it used to be, and it's even though it will not affect economic integration to some extent, since ECOWAS has decided to retain some benefits for these three countries. On the security aspect, it is definitely a setback.
I mean, interesting. You said, like, they are landlocked and you said, will they thrive if they succeed? I mean, there's also that possibility of if they succeed, other countries saying, do we really need to be in ECOWAS? Can we also follow their footsteps? So do you foresee the possibilities of these countries forming their own alternative regional alliance? Do you also see other countries following suit and um, departing from ECOWAS? And what do you think this would mean for ECOWAS as well if they form their own alliance and other countries follow suit?
Well, already these three countries have already formed the AES. It's called the AES, and they've already launched their own passports. So for other countries, so whether other countries will follow suit, it depends on how things turn out. So If other countries, for example, see that Niger, Burkina Faso, Mali are able to broker better deals for their natural resources, and that maybe the dues, right? Because we know that some countries are struggling, we're struggling to pay ECOWAS dues, and ECOWAS basically offered them a subsidy or subsidized rate on their dues. So if other countries, especially the francophone countries, right? If other countries get to see that, the francophone countries within the ECOWAS bloc or boundaries, yeah. If they see that the AES states are able to broker better deals than ECOWAS, and if they see that because it's a military-led administration, if they see that the security situation in these countries are better, who knows what's going to happen? They could decide to go on. It's a possibility, especially when they know that ECOWAS will merely let them go with a slap on the wrist, right? So that's one of the dangers of not coming out strongly to address whatever anomaly comes up within an agreement, or when people go against an agreement. That's why it's important to be tough and make your stance known. But when other countries have seen now that they can choose not to be a part of ECOWAS and they can still enjoy whatever benefits being a member of ECOWAS is, then why should anyone want to be a part of ECOWAS? So this may be the beginning of the end, not to be a prophet of doom.
Interesting. I mean, now you have Nigeria. Let's move over to Nigeria, where we are having a reduction of oil prices. What do you think is the potential economic effect of this price reduction on households and small businesses across Nigeria?
Well, Nigeria is one of those countries where prices go up and they almost never come down, right? So and it's quite funny, and it speaks to the attitude, should I say attitude, of Nigerian businesses or some Nigerian businesses, not to generalize. When when a price hike is announced, they quickly raise prices. But when prices drop, they claim to have old stock that they must sell off at higher prices. So even though it's been 4 days now since the Dangote Refinery announced a drop in its ex-depot prices, the retail pump price has remained the same. And so it begs the question as to what exactly is the ideology of some Nigerian businesses, especially those in the oil sector. What do they stand for? And it even goes to show that Nigerian consumers are not protected when it comes to price gouging practices of some businesses. Also, the transportation system in Nigeria is so disconnected in a way. And so, despite the fact that prices or petrol prices have dropped or have even fluctuated in recent months, right? You've had a drop, you've had an increase, you've had a drop, you've had an increase, and now a drop. The transport prices have remained at an all-time high. So, and you see people with less cars on the road, the traffic is less because people are not willing to spend so much on petrol, or they cannot afford to spend so much on petrol. So the transport system in Nigeria is disconnected from reality. And so practitioners in that sector will basically set their prices at a certain rate or set certain rates for different routes, and they just maintain it, waiting for the next petrol price hike so that they can again raise their prices.
I mean, it's interesting how you said, when the prices go up, they quickly increase their prices. And as the price has been reduced, they take their time to reduce their prices. So don't you think that this now calls for the regulatory body to checkmate, you know, marketers as well and the filling stations, the companies, because why would you quickly adopt? I mean, is and that's the practice. So don't you think that because there's also a laxity in the regulatory basically like if I don't get punished, if I don't get, if there are no repercussions, then or like you said, the customers are not protected. What steps do you think that the regulator can take to ensure that even when these prices go up and down, that the adherence to them is strict?
Well, one thing is that it's a deregulated market now as it stays. So every marketer is free to set the prices at whatever rates they want. And it is left for the consumer to make a decision on who to patronize or who to buy petrol from, for example. So, but at the same time, you have agencies like the Consumer Product Protection Agency, the FCCPC, that is supposed to ensure that marketers and businesses do not arbitrarily extort from customers and just set whatever prices they want or they feel like, right? But at the same time, this is something to be expected. And this is where the marketers will hide under and say it's a deregulated market. The government no longer sets the price. And instead, the government is also a player in the market, in the downstream sector of the market. So you have the NNPC retail station. So NNPC or the government can choose to sell lower to the consumers rather than enforce that marketers should sell at a certain price. The government no longer has the power. But what they can do is to say, is to set a band, right? To say, okay, you are banned, and you have that, the CBN does that with the Bureau de change operators and say, you can only sell at a band of maybe plus 20 naira or plus 30 naira or plus 50 naira to, of course, accommodate your business expenses and profit margin. So that's something that could be done, but it's still early days, even though it's been almost a year of the regulation now. Actually, over a year of the regulation, 18 months of the regulation. So, but it's still, the market is still taking shape, and we almost unfortunately endure until things stabilize in the market.
Yeah, interesting. So, I mean, it's how the deregulation, I mean, like you said, it's almost a year or it's a year, and we're seeing like the effect, we're seeing the price go up, the price come down. Now, could this price reduction, which we're experiencing now, be sustained in the long run? And considering the fluctuations in global energy market?
Um, Maybe not in the long run, because one of the things that comes with the regulation is that the prices will fluctuate in line with the global markets, the global energy market. So we know that Nigeria has sells crude oil is benchmarked against Brent crude on the global market. So that's Nigeria's Swiss crude benchmark against Brent crude in the global market. So maybe not in the long run, but one thing that is sure is that as more refineries come on stream, you have that the NNPC says the Port Harcourt refinery is back on stream, the Warri refinery is back on stream, and they're working on the Kaduna refinery. You also have the BUA refinery that is currently being constructed, and a number of smaller modular refineries, right? Including Walter Smith refinery that is already in operation. So as more refineries come on board, then there is adequate supply. And in economics, it's just normal that when there is excess supply, prices drop. So it would now be a competitive space where everybody then chooses their own market strategy, whether to sell at lower prices to attract more customers or to sell at a premium and attract a certain type of clientele, right? Do you understand? So as the market shapes out, like I said earlier, as the market shapes out, supply becomes more, then we can expect lower prices that the Nigerians can live with.
Thank you. Looking forward to that. Lower prices. On to our last story, where shale oil spill in the Niger Delta. Um, what role do you think that the regulatory bodies can play in ensuring that all companies maintain strict environmental safety standards to ensure that all spillages don't happen when these companies are operating in a particular region?
Nigeria's oil spill problem, and it is a perennial problem. It happens, for example, data from the National Oil Spill Detection and Rescue.
So what role should regulatory bodies play in ensuring that all companies maintain strict environmental safety standards?
Well, Nigeria's oil spill problem is not one that started today. Between 2012 and 2022, an estimated 9,400 oil spill incidences occurred. Now, the fact when these incidences occur, it's not just about the crude oil that Nigeria loses, because that's money that has just been flushed out. It's also that people in the area lose their livelihood, the environment is polluted, the drinking water is polluted, people that have boreholes or drink from the wells, everything is polluted. So regulators need to be strict with what with their regulations or with the standards that are set for oil companies. And so the practice of using Nigeria's old and aged pipeline network, they have to start investing in modernizing and upgrading the infrastructure that oil companies use, right? So that these incidences become far and in between. And also, it's not just from the Ministry of Petroleum side alone. It's also from the Ministry of Environment and Environmental Activities.
With the ongoing investigation, what potential penalties could Shell face if found responsible for negligence? And how effective are these penalties in driving corporate accountability as well?
Well, in Nigeria's case, can you hear me?
Yes, yes, I can.
Okay. In Nigeria's case, going by history, residents of oil communities did not used to get justice for oil spills, and so they had to start suing oil companies in their own countries, right? Going abroad, and that was how they could get justice and fines would be imposed. So, if you look at it from the Nigerian angle alone, or from the Nigerian perspective, the oil companies basically get away with these oil spill incidences. And so residents then have to rally around and wait on either the UN to carry out remediation activities or go abroad to sue the oil companies. And with the Trump presidency now, we know about how the US is cutting back on its foreign aid activities. So at the end of the day, the UN may not be will not be a very reliable place to wait for remediation or to fund remediation activities.
All right, we look forward to the result of the investigation, and then we'll see things that would follow through. That concludes today's episode. Thank you, Sheyi, for being with us and sharing your insights that made this conversation more engaging.
Thank you very much for having me.
You're welcome. That's all for today. To all our listeners, this podcast is by SBM Intelligence. You can access our podcast by searching for SBM Intelligence anywhere you find podcasts. Don't forget to subscribe if you are yet to, like, share, and drop your comments. For deeper insights into our work, visit our website at sbmintel.com. Remember to connect with us on social media. Through our social media platforms, you can find us on X, Facebook, Blue Sky, and LinkedIn at SBM Intelligence. Thank you for tuning in to the week ahead. Join us next Saturday for more updates shaping the African continent.